हाँ जी, गुड मॉर्निंग।
Good morning, sir.
Good morning,
Good morning,
sir.
sir.
आ रहा है। यस। हेलो।
Yes, sir. Couldn't hear you.
ओके, नाउ am I audible?
Yes, sir.
So, I'm quite hopeful that you are understanding to whatever I'm talking in terms of the philosophy of existence, isn't it? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, today I shall be uh, talking about the French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre. Jean-Paul Sartre. And I would like to begin with one of his famous fragments, which will tell us a lot about the kind of philosophy or the kind of philosopher Sartre was. I shall be sending the video soon. It's ready, maybe today. Anyway, so Sartre says, Sartre opines, and he opines that man is nothing else. Man is nothing else. You can just listen to this. I'm explaining this. I shall be sending the video. Don't worry. So, man is nothing else but that which he makes of himself. Which he makes of himself. That is the first principle of existentialism. That is the what? First principle of existentialism, according to Jean-Paul Sartre. A man is nothing but whatever he makes of himself, minus all the things, minus all the essences, minus all the things and the goods which a man takes care of, as propounded by Martin Heidegger. Right now? So he says what? A man is what he makes of himself. This is the first principle of what? Existentialism. This is what people call as subjectivity. Using the word as a reproach against this. For the men or the man to say that man primarily exists, man primarily exists, that man is before all else. Man is what? Before all else. Something which people is, sorry, something which propels itself, something which propels itself toward a future and is aware that it is doing so. A conscious move man is making as far as ushering in the arena of a future is concerned. We all are moving, we all are progressing, but if you happen deep, you'd come across that all the yardsticks, measurements, and hallmarks of success, progress is given to you, is supplied to you. It is not your parameter, it's not your yardstick, it's not your measurement, but that is something given to you as a receiver. You have to be successful, do this. You have to be prosper, do this. You have to be achiever, do this. In terms of physical manifestations, in terms of accumulations, this is what we were discussing last. So the conscious man, the thinking man is an important thing. Thinking man. The thinking man, which we could talk about in terms of dare to know in the Enlightenment era, as Kant said, thinking man, dare to know. But what have we become? We all are like Bhasmasur, the typical Indian mythological demon. Bhasmasur was given the ability, the power to blast anybody, and if he happens to put his hand on the head of anybody in that way. We have created these, all the paraphernalia, all the commodities. We have created religion. We have created soul and oversoul. We have created mobile, laptop. We have created each and everything. We have. And ironically, we ourselves have been imprisoned into that. Eh? Is it? Max Weber, a very important German philosopher, a sociologist. I was just reading him just like that. And in there, I got an important, very fascinating term. He says that we all are in prison. The name is Max Weber. So Weber itself suggests web. We all are in the web. And he says that we are in prison age. Prison age, right? Prison of idea, prison of things, prison of commodity, prison of all sorts of things. And in between, we have become so much objective. We have become they, we have become others. But he is talking about what? We as I, me as real I in that way, right? So he says further, just see what he says. He says that toward a future and is aware that it is doing so. And then he says, man is indeed a project. Man is indeed a project which possesses a subjective life instead of being. Just wait, somebody has come. So instead of being a kind of moss, moss, yes, moss, yes, instead of being a kind of moss fungus, or a cauliflower, what is he? A thinking man. He is having a subjectivity which a moss, fungus, or a cauliflower doesn't have. Before that projection of the self, according to Sartre, before that projection of the self, nothing exists. Not even the heaven of intelligence. Man only man will attain man will only attain existence when he purposes to achieve, when he purposes to be, purposes the man's own intention, human being's own conscience. And this extract was from his writing Existentialism and Humanism. The title itself says that how existentialism is like humanism, humanism revisited, humanism redefined, humanism reinterpreted. This is what is the most important project of Sartre as an existentialist philosopher. This is what he thinks about us as individual I. Individual I. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Now, we have several, you know, concepts of Jean-Paul Sartre's philosophy, and let me see how do we do these one by one. So again, let me just repeat myself that Jean-Paul Sartre is what? He's a French philosopher of the 20th century, right? Simple information, right? And the thing is, it's better for us to know some of his writings at the same time. So we have understood him, we have to take him not as a pure philosopher, but as a literature as well, because he happened to write plays and novels, right? So I would like to just utter the representatives of his writings. So as far as play is concerned, we can talk about his play that is again very seminal one, No Exit. You might have heard of this name, I hope. No Exit, right? And when we talk about the novel, this is Nausea. Nausea, right? And when we talk about his philosophical treatise, one we already discussed, that is existentialism and humanism, and the other one is the being and nothingness. Being and nothingness. So I think these are the important writings which you must know while making a move towards understanding Jean-Paul Sartre. Let us move to his important philosophies. And I remember that I discussed these once upon a time when we were in the physical classroom. Please help me, uh, especially the concepts like being in itself, being for itself, and being for others. डिस्कस किया था? नहीं? याद है? भूल गए? हैं? बोले भाई, याद है? नहीं? कोई बात नहीं. So uh, being in itself is important concept of Sartre. Being in itself refers to the state of having no conscience. No conscience. The state of having no power. The state of having no sense of oneself at all. Being in itself may also refer to things in themselves as they are fixed, as they are made to be, unchanging, same forever. And I gave you the example of anything which we can think of in terms of fixity, in terms of stableness, in terms of groundedness, in terms of no change at all. Fungus, cauliflower, bricks, your home, parda, your cloth which you have put on, do they have conscience? Do they have power to live? Do they have the capacity to think? Aren't they in a way static? Aren't they in a way stable? Aren't they in a way fixed? Can they think? Can they act? Can they be something which they are not today? On its own. On its own. So, for example, so if I am putting on a cloth and I have to make it more shining, so I shall, should I ask my shirt, hey shirt, you go to the washroom and get yourself ready. You have to be with me for a party. Will shirt do it? No, because the shirt doesn't have a conscience of its own. Doesn't have a consciousness. The shirt will become shinier, will become more clear when I shall be applying my own conscience. I shall take this to the washroom. I shall use Nirma powder, better one, better one, Surf Excel, and then I shall be using Revive to make it more. You know the things better than I do. I hope so. This shirt that doesn't have a consciousness. This mobile phone which you are using, does it have a consciousness of its own? You may say, sir, this mobile talks and there is a Google Assistant. Where you speak to her and she answers very well. So I have one Apple. So I would say, look, I have a Siri and she says, you are a good man. But I would say, look, whatever the conscience you are trying to project in terms of the mobile phone, in terms of Alexa, Google Assistant, or Siri, it's not the quality of the iPhone or the Android or the mobile Windows. This is what we have given to that. This is what I am. This is what the human beings have made that to act in a certain way, to behave a certain way. Had there been no involvement of the human brain, there would have been no Alexa, no Assistant, and no Siri, and no Google Meet, no mobile phone, no laptop like that. Yes, na? Try to understand this point. So you may say that, look, I am using a chalk, for example. So you can say, sir, look, chalk can write. Chalk can write, but I have to make the chalk right, na? This is not the magical realism कि chalk उठेगा और भूत की तरह किसी भूतिया पिक्चर की तरह उठेगा और लिखना शुरू कर देगा. 7 खून माफ, कल बदला लूंगी. हैं? पिक्चर में देखा होगा आपने. अच्छा लगता होगा, बहुत बढ़िया, बहुत अच्छा, अच्छा अच्छा लिखा है, अच्छी हैंडराइटिंग उसकी है, लाल लाल लिखती है. गुड फन, आई लाइक इट. एनीवे, the chalk cannot go up to the green board, white board, black board, whatsoever, right? And say, look, badla. No, you'll have to use your brain. The brain will give signal to the hand will pick up the chalk and then do the needful. Being in itself, no conscience, no power to move, no power to think, nothing like that. And if it has certain kinetic quality, it is we who provide that. It is we means who? The human beings. It has its fixities, it has its basic rudiments, stable identities, and it's all being in itself, which we have been privileging much more beyond we have been, as Heidegger has been talking about that, cares and things and goods in that way. So being in itself, first concept. The second is being for itself. Yes, this is we. And just try to understand being for itself in terms of stark opposition to whatever we have been talking in terms of being in itself. But even being for itself has certain fixities. So I am born male, not a man. I am a born male and you are a born female, if I can say so. This is my fixity. I can't change this. Can I change my maleness? Can you change your femaleness? Depending on, I'm talking about the biological difference in that way. But I can change my manness. Huh? You can change your femaleness. Sorry, your feminine that way. The thing. But I have this fixity. Look, I am a male. I can't change this. I have taken birth in India, in Odisha, in Bihar, in Rajasthan, in Chhattisgarh. I can't change this. Could you change this? No. No. You can't change this. So your reason, your physical, sexual identity, you can't change this. There are certain fixities which shall be there with you. But if I say, look, I am a born man, it means I am a nonsense. Because man is dual genitals, not more than that. But I'm talking of man in terms of if a woman is made, a man is also made. ऐसा नहीं कि मैन पैदा होता है बना बनाया, नहीं, उसे भी मैन बनाया जाता है, सिखाया जाता है, वो ऐसा करो, ठीक है. So if woman is made, I'm so sorry Simundi Boba, a man is also made. Both the identities are constructed identities. So there are certain fixities which we can have, which we have, but it has a consciousness of its own. It's a thinking self, thinking machine. It's not static in that sense that the name is mobile, but mobile cannot move from one place to another until unless you use your hands to move it from there to there. I mean, look at the name mobile, but it can't mobilize itself. Can it mobilize itself? No, because it doesn't have a consciousness of its own. What about you? You have a consciousness. You come and join this class. You open your camera consciously. You off your camera consciously because you have a brain of yours. You are not fixed identity. You are not a jad. You are a chetan. Jad and chetan. Being in itself is a jad, and being for itself is a chetan. In Hindi we can say that. So you have your own consciousness. You have your own existence, and this what makes you different from being in itself. It means by the use of your conscience, you can change yourself. You can transform yourself. You can become somebody else what you were 10 days ago, 10 years ago. It means it means you are not a thing. A thing is that which is static, fixed, jad. You are not a thing. Are you a thing? Are you a commodity? No. You have a sense. You have a conscience. You have a consciousness. And this enables you to keep on moving, keep on changing. Changing not in terms of मौसम की तरह तुम भी बदल जाओगे, ऐसा नहीं चेंज होना है. चेंज का मतलब बढ़िया वाला चेंज. Right? So keep on. This is the thing which makes you nothing. This conscience, this consciousness makes you nothing. What is that? No thing. N-O space thing. You are not a thing. You are a nothing. You are nothing. You are what? You are a nothing. You are nothing. Nothing means apart from certain fixities. Apart from certain fixities, you have to keep your conscience alive. The power to be somebody, the power to be else, the power to be something which you were not before. Because this consciousness enlivens you, it gives you the power not to remain static, not to remain fixed, not to remain jad, but to be chetan, right? You have to be in flow of your consciousness. So you are not a thing. What are you? You are a nothing. You are nothing. Nothing means, don't take it literally in terms of whatever you have been talking, as if you are fighting. Two of you are fighting and somebody is saying, ah, you are nothing. You must take it, oh yes, I am a nothing. You are a thing. आपसे कहिएगा, यदि आपसे कोई कहता है कि यू आर नथिंग, तो कहेगा हाँ, थैंक यू सो मच, I am nothing, you are a thing. तो मुझे परेशान हो जाएगा, ये क्या ही कह रही है, पागल है वो, ये क्या? So no thing and thing. Being for itself is no thing because it has a conscience. It has a consciousness. And this is what Sartre was talking about in terms of a human project, in terms of subjectivity, in terms of desire to be, right? To achieve something in utter absence of whatever we have been accumulating, whatever we have been gathering, and whatever we have been, amassing in the name of things, goods, and cares, as if we have been creating bhasmasurs, and they have simply undone us. They have simply fooled us. We all are Dr. Faustus. Mind it. We all are Dr. Faustus. Dr. Faustus must have literally sold his soul to somebody. But we have, oh my God, we have literally sold the whole being, the necessities, to the cares, and to things which are utterly unwarranted, undesired, unnecessary. Unnecessary. So we all are Dr. Faustus, and our soul is there somewhere in the mobile, somewhere in the laptop, in the cloth, in the food, in Netflix, maybe, or in Amazon, or maybe the Great Indian Sale. कहीं भी हो, उसको लेके आइए, अपने पास रखिए. साथ कहता है, मैं नहीं कहता. Huh? This is what Sartre says. Am I making any sense?
Yes,
So we
sir.
have being
Yes.
in itself,
Yes, sir.
being for itself. Now we are third, being for others. Being for others. So it's not that I am not being in itself and I am being for itself only. It's also that I am for others as well. Others mean I am looking at you. Let us take this example. Do it's a bad example, but I can't help myself. I'm looking at you, and you all are looking at me if my camera is on. Okay? So when I am looking at you, I am making a sense of yourself. And when you are looking at somebody, now forget me, right? Now somebody, so you don't look somebody, you don't look at somebody for at least just for looking sake. No. Whenever you look at something, it's a kind of, what we say in 21st century, gaze, gaze. So we think, we look at the things, we look at the people. Let us talk about people in that way. And whenever we look at people, we look at them as an object, as a commodity to be looked upon, to be looked. This is what Sartre says. So instead of looking at ourselves, instead of looking in ourselves, looking into ourselves, what we do? We look at others. Very interesting, very interesting. And this must be understood, if it can be understood, in terms of sign to sign relationship. मैं कहीं और जा रहा हूं. Let me stop myself. So being for itself, also implies the third one being for others. It means if you are thinking to have a conscience of your own, there is somebody who is there always objectifying you, commodifying you. And this is what Sartre says, ah, hell, ah, hell others, not H-A-I-L, H-E-L-L, ah, hell others. Think about it. I mean, this is something which is very much practical thing. I mean, this is not something you can't feel. You can feel it, you can live it. So he says, ah, hell other people, hell other people. But this is the, uh, lekha jokha. This is how the world is. So being in itself, being for itself, and being for others. And we have to make our own way. Whether we have to be being in itself, whether we have to be being for itself, or whether we have to be being for others. Because to me, apart from the second one, that is being for itself, first, being in itself and being for others, this is what constitutes a very important concept of Sartre: bad faith. Bad faith. Bad faith. Let me give you one example. You might have heard the name of French Fanon, right?
Yes,
French
sir.
has written two important books: The Wretched of the Earth and Black Skin, White Masks. Yes? In Black Skin, White Masks, Fanon writes that a black identity is trampled, suppressed, and too much impressed with the identity of being a white. Black skin, white mask, that the black identity in that rampage simply is not in a position to understand something in terms of black, but always in terms of white. It means a black subjectivity, a black identity is continuously impressed upon, modified, worked upon to be somebody else, to become something else. Black is not good. Black has to be a laborer. Black has to be in the menial job. Black has to serve a white master. A black is a derogatory term. A black is a hell. And a black is ordained by the God to live in filth and piss. Right? So in that aspect, the black मैंने क्या गुनाह कर दिया ब्लैक होकर के, सब कुछ तो व्हाइट है. Black skin, white mask. And then black begins to employ, adopt white ways of looking, white ways of thinking, and then fair and lovely and black and white. Bad faith. What is this? Bad faith. And that results out of what? being in itself and being for others. Am I clear? Tell me.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So another important idea of Sartre is that we all are condemned to be free. Condemned to be free because once thrown into this world, the man is responsible for everything he does. The man is responsible for everything. The human being is responsible for everything what he does. The idea of freedom. The idea of freedom says what? We are condemned to be free. To be free from the essentialized aspects. To be free from all the commodities which we have gathered. Right? So the man is condemned to be free, and whenever he comes into this world, he has nothing. Imagine yourself in childhood. Imagine, just think about a baby girl, baby boy coming out from the womb of the mother. Even he doesn't have a proper piece of cloth, eh? Proper piece of cloth, and then by and by, is he or she is made to teach, made to behave, made to act, made to play, made to speak, made to do, made to not to do. Oh my God. Certain ways. Different way for a female and different way for a man, male. But think about that without these, and then he will be saying, look, you're free. We're condemned to be free because when we came on this earth, we had nothing. We just, no, we were simply nothing. We are just zero. But we had only one thing. What? The consciousness. Nothing more than that. The pure consciousness. Already we have discussed the state of pure consciousness in terms of when we're discussing the tempest, when Antonio is going to kill. Remember that? Sebastian Alonso? And Sebastian says, what about the conscience? Antonio says, aye, where does it lie? Remember that? Where does it lie? So just think about all these things, and then he says that this idea of freedom, and this freedom entails choice, the choice which we make of ourselves in terms of either being in itself, in terms of either being for itself, or in terms of being for others. It's our own choice. It's our own choice. If a black is ready to be trampled by the white, he must have done it out of the fear, na? And the fear was his choice. And if a woman is being subjugated to the atrocities of male patriarchal system, then he would say, look, this is the woman's fault, not the man's fault. Tricky, very, very tricky. But we have you seen a very famous cinema? अच्छे से याद आ गया मुझको तुरंत. There's one cinema, The Changeling. नाम सुना है? The Changeling. No? Anybody? Hello?
No, sir.
No, sir.
पिक्चर देखते नहीं देखते? खास कर वेब सीरीज देख रहे हैं. क्या देखते हैं आजकल? वेब सीरीज की पिक्चर भी. Anyway, The Changeling is a cinema by very famous uh, heroine, actress, in fact. Who is that? Angelina Jolie. Angelina Jolie. And this is the cinema which I would like you to watch, maybe today or tomorrow, if possible. Because the cinema is is set in the 1920s, 30s of the last century, and it talks about how a woman as a mother and her son goes missing, and the police department hands over another son, another boy, claiming him to be her son. Her rejection, her refusal, her non acceptance of the son being her son, and in a way, her challenge to the police, to the authority, and as a result, she is thrown into the asylum. Thrown to the asylum because, first of all, she has been a mother. Second, as a mother, she is not accepting her real child, though he is not the real child. But in between comes the questions of motherhood, nature, and nurturing. Comes in the discourse of woman being sentimental, woman being emotional, woman being physically weak, woman being flickering in nature, because at the first stance she was forced to accept the boy as son, and later on when she began to resist the very idea to have somebody else's son as her own son, she is put into mental asylum. Did you get the point? It's very interesting story. 1920s and 30s, you know. So what will happen to somebody when one will go against the power, the male patriarchal power? And that cinema talks about a very famous and famous law, which talks about the erratic behavior in women, even in sexual relationship, right? If she begins to behave abruptly, means if she begins to behave out of the ways, as being not accepted by the male patriarchal power authority, her right place is to be in the asylum. Very interesting. But this is only one part. The second part is the lady Collins, Angelina Jolie. She has the determination, she has the conscience, she refutes, she denies, she challenges, she puts a resistance. She comes out of that mental asylum, she goes to the court of law, she wins the case. That look, this is not the case. And she not only wins the case, she also happens to be the reason behind the release of all those women who were there in the mental asylum as they behaved abnormally, as they behaved erratically, as opposed to the order and rational attitude and rational behavior of men of second, third decade of 20th century America. Am I okay? I'm okay. Are you okay? Is it clear?
Yes, sir, it is clear.
Yes, sir.
Hmm. Right. So I think this choice, then the idea of responsibility, whatever you choose to be, you yourself are responsible. So if Collins and Angelina Jolie chose to be the center, it is her responsibility, and she came back emphatically. Be it the case of that, be it the case of you, be it the case of mine, be it the case of black, be it the case of anybody. You can't say that, look, I have done this. If it is good, I have done this. If it's bad, Saurabh has done it. We do it always, no? So this freedom, choice, responsibility, bad faith, being in itself, being for itself, being for others, these are some important aspects, which you need to understand to make an initial understanding of the philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre. And I think now we are ready to move to the text. That is waiting for Godot. But before that, please remember, uh, if you can read, you must at least consult the writings of famous Franz Kafka, German, Austrian German, Franz Kafka, right? The Casual Life of Michael K, Metamorphosis, because they all talk about existence in that way. I already have spoken to you about the writings of Fyodor Dostoevsky, writing in the late 19th century, be it Crime and Punishment, be it that Brothers Karamazov, right? They all are existential. Do we are going to read a text of later part of 20th century, later half of 20th century. But we all have these literary precursors and philosophical precursors. And I'm quite sure that these will enable us, you especially, because I am more enabled than you. Yeah. So this will certainly help us to understand play, waiting for God. Clear?
Sir, are there any more philosophers or literary critics we need to read, or we need to go through that those works so that we can develop our
Ha.
answer?
Today I shall be sending you one small essay written by Martin Esslin, Theatre of the Absurd, right? Please read it. And you also need to keep in your mind, if you talk about Albert Camus, right? And his The Myth of Sisyphus, where Sisyphus happens to be Greek, who is cursed to who has been cursed to fix a huge piece of stone on the top of the mountain. But each time he tries to do that, he fixes that, and each time he comes back, the roll comes back. The ball, the stone ball again rolls back. So again he fixes, again it comes back. So this is our human life. We try to fix the things, and then the new problems arise. I shall be talking about this when I shall be talking about waiting for Godot, because there I shall be talking about deconstruction, I shall be talking about rhizome. I don't know what will I talk about. So please, you may refer to the Myth of Sisyphus by Albert Camus, right? And we have Alfred Jarry and his famous Uburoi the King, one of the earliest, again, late last decade of 19th century, to be a seminal text on, to be a seminal text talking about existentialism, right, with hyphen. Okay? Okay,
Okay,
Prachi.
sir. To disturb you something more, sir. These names are quite complicated, and I cannot write those spellings so that I can search on the Google. So please, sir, if you mind to write in the chat box.
क्या
सर नाम लिख दीजिए ना सर, चैट बॉक्स में है वो कुछ नाम है जो कि हमें
किसका नाम, तुम्हारा नाम?
नहीं सर, क्रिटिक्स का नाम
हाँ,
जिसका आपने अभी भी बताया है चैट बॉक्स में सर।
अरे भाई लिख दो, चैट बॉक्स कहाँ है इसमें, लिखो अल्फ्रेड जैरी। अल्बर्ट कैमस, कोई लिख रहा है? नहीं। अल्बर्ट लिखो, ALBERT, अल्बर्ट कैमस, CAMUS, अल्बर्ट कामू। उस लोग कैमस पढ़े, कामू पढ़े, पता। सो अल्बर्ट कामू, अल्बर्ट कैमस। अल्फ्रेड जैरी, ALFRED, अल्फ्रेड जैरी, JARRY, अल्फ्रेड जैरी। यूजीन आयनेस्को, EUGENE, यूजीन आयनेस्को, IONESCO, आयनेस्को। आर्थर एडमोव, ARTHUR, आर्थर एडमोव, ADAMOV, एडमोव। पिंग पोंग, फेमस प्ले पिंग पोंग। ओके, आयनेस्को's famous play is Rhinoceros, Rhinoceros. Have you noted down? Franz Kafka, FRANZ, Franz Kafka, KAFK, Franz Kafka. Fyodor Dostoevsky, FYODOR, Fyodor Dostoevsky, DOSTOYES or VESKY. Difficult name to write. Okay, clear, Prachi?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
हाँ. And when are we having our Deepavali vacation? Any idea?
No, sir, not yet.
हेलो, दीपावली साथ पड़ेगी नहीं पड़ेगी? चलो कल मिलते हैं। सी यू टुमारो देन। थैंक यू सो मच।
Okay, sir. Thank you.